Welcome to another episode of What's Cooking at My House. In fact, this is the last episode of this season of What's Cooking in My House. And first I gotta tell you why I chose the recipes I did. And so when we first started this series of recipes, I thought, well, all of my kids in my class are special to me, so I wanted to pick recipes that are also special to me because you are special to me. So, the recipes I chose are favorites in my house. They are traditions, some old, some relatively new traditions, but they all had meaning in my family. And my family, like many others, cooking was a big deal, and especially for my grandmother and my mom. They were terrific in the kitchen. They could bake, they could cook, and their food was terrific. So, our last episode is my grandmother's chocolate pie. And that in itself is special, and I'll tell you a little story about it. My grandmother had quite a sense of humor with a little bit of mischief in it. So she would make this chocolate pie on special occasions. So if we were going back to Kansas City area to visit, she would make her chocolate pie, and whichever sibling was there would make sure the rest of us knew that Grandma made her chocolate pie and they were eating it. And then when she passed, my mom took up the recipe and she tried for years to make it like grandmother. She just was so close, but it wasn't quite. And then when my mom passed, my eldest sister and myself have taken up the recipe. And together we figured out, and this is part of my grandmother's humor, I think, her recipe, she left out one little ingredient. And so my mom was destined to never quite reach my grandmother's level on the pie. And I could totally see my grandmother doing that, just in her mischief kind of way. So, anyway, let's make a chocolate pie. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my dry ingredients. I have sugar. I'm going to do a cup of sugar. Yeah, just a cup, I think. Cup of sugar. Quarter cup of cornstarch, and I'm putting it in a saucepan because I'm going to cook these ingredients. I'll explain that as I go. So I have my cornstarch. I'm going to do a quarter cup cocoa, maybe I should go in and get it. It's making a mess. I don't mind a little extra cocoa. There we go, a quarter cup of cocoa. We'll add some salt. About a quarter teaspoon of salt. And those are my dry ingredients. And then what I'm going to do, I have a cup and a half of milk. Recipe calls for whole milk. I'm using 2%. I think it's all right. And then I'm going to mix half a cup of evaporated milk into the mix. And so what I'm going to do is, over medium heat, I'm going to start cooking as I add my milk mixture, my 2% or whole milk, and my evaporated milk, over medium heat until it starts to boil. And when it comes off, I'll show you the next step, which involves a couple more ingredients. So, while I'm cooking this to a boil, adding the milk mixture as it cooks, whisking the whole time, and then when it comes to a boil, I'll take it off the heat and we'll add some more ingredients. Okay, so I've cooked my ingredients, and you can see it's starting to thicken up. Yes, there we go. Next thing we need to do is add egg yolks, and I have 4 egg yolks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of the chocolate mix, and I'm going to whisk that. Until it's well mixed. Can you see that? There we go. So now that I have that, I'm going to now add this back into my mix. And then from here, we're going back on the stove again. We're going to cook for about 3 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. Medium heat again, whisking the whole time. I want to grab that, it was hot. So, back on the stove, 3 minutes, maybe a little bit more, medium heat. You got to keep whisking. This is about whisking. All right, so we'll take another break here while I cook this for a few more minutes, and then there are a couple more ingredients, and then our filling will be done. Okay, so I've cooked this for about another 3 minutes or so with the egg yolks in there. Now you can see it's really thickened up. 2 more ingredients to add. This is 2 tablespoons of butter. And put this in and get out of the wrap. There we go. So, excuse me. So, 2 tablespoons of that and a tablespoon of vanilla. We're getting low on vanilla. All right. Now I'm going to whisk this together. And that will complete the filling. Then our next step is going to be making the meringue. Now, I mentioned earlier that my eldest sister and I have picked up this recipe for the family. And the last time all of us were together, there are 5 of us. Last time we were together, she made one and I made one. And our filling came out terrific. Both of us, they were both really good. My meringue was better than hers, and her crust was better than mine. So it was a draw. Not that we're competitive, but so my filling is just about ready, and we're going to set this aside while we make the meringue. Now I will say though, my sister followed my mom and grandmother and made her own crust. And I didn't do that. I bought a crust, which is what I did for tonight's recipe as well. But it's still going to be terrific. So, now that I have this mixed, we'll take another short break while I get set up for the meringue, and I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so we're ready to make the meringue. And what my sister didn't have was a copper bowl. And yes, I bought this copper bowl for one thing, and that was my grandmother's meringue. So, the key to a meringue is it can't have any oils or fat. And you won't, if it does, if there's any residual in the bowl, it will affect the meringue, and you won't get those little peaks. So, I have this bowl just for that, and I think that's what made the difference. So I have 5 egg whites. I add those in there. 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. I'm gonna add that. And then I have done it by hand, but I have this tool, so it's a little bit easier to do it with a tool. Now I'm also I have a 1/4 cup of sugar, which I'll add in as I go. I'll give it a little bit of a starter. All right. See that. Now how long it takes, I'm not really sure. But we'll keep going until we get there we go. Equipment malfunction. Add a little more sugar. I don't know why this is coming on. My dog is not used to this tool. And we'll add the rest of our sugar. And from this point, it is just whisking. We'll go ahead and pause for right now because I'm going to be whisking for a little bit. When we come back, I'll show you what it looks like before we put it all together. Okay, you can see this has changed quite a bit. And we are just about there. We want nice stiff peaks. Oh yeah, that looks good. All right. So now we're going to assemble our pie. So I think the mistake I made last time is I didn't pre-bake my pre-made crust, but so the first thing we need to do hand this to my son to take care of. He knows what to do with it. And we're going to fill our pie. Oh yeah, look at that. That is just yummy goodness. I don't recommend eating this on a regular basis, but for special occasions, it is a terrific treat. Okay. So, filling is in there. Now, one of my boys got the whisk with chocolate on it. I'll save this one for my other son who is filming this. Now we're going to add the meringue. We're just going to just pile it on. All right, now get that on there. I add just a little bit more on this side. And my mom and my grandmother, let's do a little bit more, just in case. They are really good about creating little peaks on top. And in the oven, that will get a little deeper brown. How's it look? Will that work? All right, I'm gonna put this in the oven at 325 degrees for about 20 minutes. What I'm gonna be looking for is the meringue, and I want a nice light golden brown. These little tips may get a little darker, but that's okay. And we'll see, so about 20 minutes. Okay. The pie is out. As you can see, this golden brown. My peaks are a little bit darker, but it is done. I can't cut into it right now because it needs to sit for a little while, but I am confident that this came out really well. So, I hope that you've had a chance to try some of these recipes that are special recipes in my house. And remember, alla tavola non sei vecchio. At the table, you don't age. And that is what's cooking at my house.